Hello, I'm Helen Van Wyk, and welcome to a new series of Welcome to My Studio. This series is going to deal in threes, and today's lesson is going to demonstrate how paintings are done 1, 2, 3, a 1, 2, 3 approach, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Symphonies are done in threes, 3 movements, 1, 2, 3. Plays are very often done in 3 acts, 1, 2, 3. And as with them, painting 2 is the second act, or the second movement, or the second step. So let me begin with number 1 first and show you how 1, 2, 3 can really work. Those who know me are familiar with the ever-present tone canvas. I don't want to work on a white canvas. It makes painting too difficult. Painting is difficult. You have to make it easy. So one of the ways to make it easy is to tone the canvas in a way that is sympathetic to the subject that you want to do. I want to do white flowers. I want to end up with white flowers, so why start with white? So I've started with something that is less than that. Step 1 is always the planning and the placement and the proportioning to make sure that I get it to fit. So why don't I start out and make some lines to indicate where I'm going to end up. I don't want to start in the middle. I'm liable to end up off the canvas. So I like to make a limitation of the subject matter on the canvas and not think that much about the drawing, but the arrangement. This always seems to be a frightening time of the picture. I like the stage the best because you have so many possibilities about it. Your expectations are high. Everything seems to be so much in an embryo stage that you're not intimidated by what you've done. I'm not anyway, because I'm not really too worried about how this is going to turn out. I want to do my best, that's all, just my best. I think you're watching me, you worry more about how it's going to look in the end, and I worry about how this particular stage is looking. And it seems like a good seed, the seed of a painting, not a painting. Heavens, that takes long to get a painting done, but this first part of stage 1 is the beginning of a nice play. So there's already another third or 3 happening on this canvas, which I'll talk in great length some other time. The focal point is right about in here. And that's at the 3rd mark. And so I have dropped my interest right here, not in the middle, not over here, right at the 3rd, and hope that the interest kind of blossoms out from it. So after the placement, that was really proportioning and placement. Now I have to make a little bit more of an indication of the drawing. The drawing of each flower, not in all its petaldom, but in its direction and perspective. Some people like to spend a great deal of time doing every little bit of the flower, every little nuance of every little petal at this particular time. Yes, if you want to do it that way, fine. But when you paint flowers, you have to be a little bit more aware of the time, because they're not going to stay alive forever. Of course, I'm not in jeopardy today because these are artificial. It's all right to practice from artificial flowers. The real ones do sing out and give you a much nicer message. But these do happen to be quite nice peonies. I don't know. How do you say that? So they all fit. It all seems to work here. And the vase that you see is not the vase I want to use. It doesn't seem to, I wanted to squat it down a little bit more. And so I'm going to make up my own vase. And that represents, in very quick order, the three parts of step one: the placement, the proportioning, and the drawing. Now I can get on to that very important step two, and that is the development of the beginning. I've already captured your interest with Act 1. Now I have to work and have you understand what Act 1 is all about. And so let's start out with what the stage 2 in the 1, 2, 3 painting approach is. And that is, I'm going to lay in paint over this whole canvas wherever I need paint, and it is all over. So all I have to do is apply the tone and color of the paint in the areas that I've indicated. And you'll be able to see by starting on a darkened canvas that I can start with the white flowers. Now I don't make them pure white, I have them dirty white. I dirtied them with black and yellow ochre to make a warm gray, and try to have my brush suggest the outer silhouette. You can't make a brush draw a line, but you can make a brush fill in an area. Ooh, that's a little bit too dirty. Don't worry about that black paint getting into your mass tone. It's might be dulling it a little, but remember, this is only the second stage of this picture's development. The colors are not the colors of that you actually see. They're the foundation colors for what you actually see. And if they are a little bit duller and a little less brilliant, they're a far better fertile bed for the flower's actual appearance. You've heard me say so many times before, you can only get 3 things wrong: the shape, the tone, and the color. There's a 3 for you. So I've just put in a suggestion of the shapes, which I can improve by putting in the background their contrasting tone. Right out of the puddle that I did the flowers, I mix my new tone for the background. Why not use up that paint that I already had? It's not going to hurt it. And also mix, when you know you're going to do a big area, mix a lot of paint. Don't be a little puny about it. And so often I have seen people who have not had instruction do a background and they start doing this. They start covering it the way they would painting a wall. But that's not really what the background is being done for. The background is being done to aid the pictorial content of the picture, and that means that you should really start around the flowers to help have the background shape the flowers. Keeping in mind that you want to have this first lay-in of background suggests the overall look of each bloom. It's at this time that the picture could look poster-like, not any feeling of intrigue or mood or even depth, just flat. But it's a time that it's something that has to be done, because after all, you're making a painting, and there's an old saying, you're never really painting until you're painting into paint. So at this time, don't ask for anything more than of yourself to then, I have to cover the canvas with the tones of the subject and try to maintain a feeling or the spirit of the object's shape. If you think of one thing at a time, you're in more control of what you're doing. One thing at a time. Just cover the canvas and shape the flowers. People say, "Oh, Helen, you paint so fast. How can you be doing that so fast?" I says, "I'm doing very little. All I'm doing is covering the canvas. That's what I've got my mind on. If I had my mind on how wonderful I thought those flowers have to be, I would be so frightened." It's when you are intimidated by the end result that you are afraid to do what you're doing. And every product goes through a funny stage. Just think of a cake. A beautiful cake, beautifully iced and decorated. At one time in its life, it just was a bowl of glob that had to be well mixed with good ingredients. And so that's what I'm doing now. This is comparable to mixing the batter. It's so funny how so many people do approach other jobs with common sense and yet approach a painting trying to use some other kind of attribute. Thinks that it's made of magic. It isn't. And yes, my greenery is all darker. I'm using sap green and burnt umber. I had white in it for where it's lighter. And let's put this darker green in here, just to suggest the greenery. Be consistent about your stages. I would never start, again, working on the flowers and doing anything more to the flowers and ignore the vase and the table. Because the vase and the table are just as much part of this overall picture as the flowers are. You can't really say that you're doing flowers, you're painting a picture of flowers. So just for fun, I think I'm going to make the vase blue. See what blue will do. I need a relief of color. Ooh, wow. People say, how do you choose your color? I said, well, try it out. Try it out first. See how it looks. That just looks too bright to me. I think that would be more workable for me at this stage. And so I don't get too many colors in here. I think I'll just put the table to a kind of a white cloth. Ooh, I'm going to have to stop a minute and put in some more white. This is getting too dirty. But it's a good idea to put your surrounding areas, the negative spaces, in a duller color first. You can always brighten it up later. Whenever I put in this dirty color on a tablecloth, I think of my first mother-in-law. She was so clean. And it just delights me that I'm painting in something so dirty. Because she used to come into my house and look for all the cobwebs and see if her dear precious son was living in a clean environment and dirty it up even more, because I see a cast shadow there. Now I want to step back and see what this lay-in of the basic tones look like, because this is only the beginning of step 2. It is not the completion of step 2. I will not go on to step 3 until I feel that I have worked this out to a certain degree, which I hope I show you when I come back to it. This is the most important part of the picture process. This in-between stage, this modeling stage, time that you have paint on the canvas and you can start moving it in a way to get a little bit closer to the appearance of the subject. And it's pushing the paint out over the background or moving the background color into the shape. This is the stage that takes the longest. This is the stage that people like to rush through because they're so anxious to get to the end and have it look exactly like the subject. I'd much rather stay at this correctable stage, the stage where I can still move the paint in the shapes that I think are going to be an asset to the final look. This is that wonderful mud pie stage. So many little soft qualities of tone and color happen at this time, and it's also at this time that you could, if you wanted to, start introducing the colors that you ignored the first time around. It's at a very correctable condition. It's never a correctable condition when you have paint the image in the beginning the way it looks like in the end. You've got to keep your stages right. What happens in the beginning of the picture, what happens in the middle, and it's all that the beginning and the middle is done for the sake of what you can finally do. And when you finally do it, well, then the affair is over. So you want to get at least something out of it. So it's back and forth between the negative space and the positive space, or the flowers and its background. Notice how the brush can, as to the pressure I use, give either a found or a lost edge. Really trying to keep the edges as fuzzy at this time as possible. Of course I'm looking for light and dark. Always. Where the flower is toward the light and where the flower is away from the light. Many people think that this is a process done, that I do it another way when I'm in my studio. No, I do it the same way. I just take a little longer, and I'm much more careful. So you can say they begin to feel a little bit like, just a little bit like peonies. Now I'm going to go to step 3, finishing it. I would never get to this stage or this step until I really felt that I enjoyed the picture as it is, that it was a suggestion of all that I had aspired it to be. So then I could just continue it and finish it off. And I think I'd start right in by pleasing my my first mother-in-law, who's up in heaven cleaning the place, I know. By lightening the table, especially around the vase, I don't have the time to finish everything because it just is impossible, but I can demonstrate how to finish it. You'll notice that this is still quite flat. There is amalgamation of color because I've fused the negative with the positive. So now I can put it into focus and finish it by now inspecting the subject matter carefully and finding out where the light is striking the petals the hardest. The light is coming from the right. So any petal in line with that light is going to be lighter. Now you can see how beneficial that second stage is. If you try to get to the second stage too soon, you don't have really the essence of the flower embedded in your painting. This addition of the lighter tones, this stage is just as important as step 2. And it takes long. I would probably work on this picture 2 hours adding the lights. But let me step back a minute. Yes, I've been working on this picture. This demonstration of 1, 2, 3. You see I'm finalizing with some lighter tones to show the stems and the leaves. And I would certainly suffer over the vase a little bit more. Please realize that my lessons to you demonstrate what can be done. But I do have something here of almost the same subject that I took longer to do. You see, a little bit more time makes a different effect. So next time we meet, I'll teach you another 1, 2, 3. Or, here it comes, I may teach you how to make soup.